What is your feeling in terms of the importance of being local? What does being local mean to you? What does it mean to think globally, act locally? And why were you the president? What does that mean?
Yeah, there's that old phrase, all politics is local, all life is local. You read about these casual ties, what makes someone's life rich. And that's all about, as you said, when you walk the street, those interactions you have with people, the shopkeepers, the neighbor, the person who just happens to go to the coffee shop the same time every day that you go, that you just happen to strike up conversations with. It creates a fabric in a community that makes life worth living. And so that's at the core of all this, that was brought into real relief during COVID. You realize how easy it is for people to be isolated, for them to be lonely, and that creating a neighborhood, creating a community takes a little bit of effort and some sweat and some tears sometimes, and you don't really miss it until it's gone. And it was gone. So that's, in a way, the origin. It goes backwards and forwards. It's the origin of this newsletter, and it's sort of a cautionary tale about what a community can be and what it can't be or shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So one of the pluses of COVID is it made us all sort of take a look down the block this way, and the block that way, and behind me, and in front of me, and say, who are these people in my life? Some of them I don't know well, some of them I barely know at all, some of them I nod at, and others are dear friends. And how do you build a fabric of life out of that?
Yeah, community and democracy is fickle. And the line is not always clear. And I do think it is on the neighborhoods. This is, it's funny, when I got involved in it, it was always like, I'm doing this because I want to be a part of the change that I want to see in my community.
Yeah, and you sort of, if you don't want to be a part of the change or be a part of the effort to help the community become its best self, it's really hard to hector from the side.
You earn the right to complain.
Yeah,
in a sense. If you live in America, at least, right?
Right, and I understand. People have all different points of view, and not only is that okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And you have to value that. To sort of moderate that, to keep it on the rails, is a certain set of rules about civility, about assuming goodwill, about trying to be positive, trying to look for the best in people and the best in the situation. Sort of these rules of the road that when people are under stress, and look at the stress we have, it's health stress, economic stress, mental stress. It's very easy to lose some of the basics and sort of stray outside the rails. And that's why, whatever we can do individually and also in groups like the Ocean Park Association and the other neighborhood groups to help keep us together is really what's key.
Yeah, I think you did an amazing job. Like I said, it's now my main source of local news. I trust that it's accurate. I trust that it's impartial. And you do a great job at not leading people towards a bias, right? How do you make sure that the way that you frame things doesn't include our tendencies to have opinions about things in the subject lines, in the description about what's going on?
Well, I'm not perfect about it, but
you're very good.
We do our best.
Yeah.
And the idea is you really strip down the language to begin with and remove the qualifiers and try to just present facts, and you ask yourself, how do we know that? Because after all, what's a fact? A fact does have verification behind it. There is a difference between a fact which is verifiable, preferably from multiple different places, from definitive places, from official places, and from hearsay or from things overheard, like on Nextdoor, for example. So it's an ongoing effort, and we have a very interesting time here in that if you ask the average person is Santa Monica like some of the national discourse or lack of discourse that goes on that you just pretty well described a minute ago? And most people would say, no, we're all good, thoughtful, fair folks here. But when you cut beneath that, I think there is some of that highly bifurcated, highly sort of separated side versus side kind of discourse here. That if we could not encourage that by being really scrupulous as possible, being fallible human beings, that we could not encourage or inflame, that's a good thing. Unless reporting is very careful, it's very easy to conflate homelessness with crime. Now, there is a fair amount of crime associated with homelessness, but walking down the street, pushing a cart while looking disheveled, or even talking to oneself is not a crime.
Right.
It can make people uncomfortable, can be offensive to some people, but it's not a crime. And it's very easy to not keep all this in perspective because back here in the brainstem, fear speaks very loudly. And it's easy to sort of make that fear contagious.
It's biologically intended to do so also.
Absolutely.
Right.
So the idea of fairly covering crime and yet keeping it in a modulated place is one of the things we